Game of Thrones, Season 7, Episode 3, A Queen's Justice. My name is in the title. Welcome to Project 3319. My name is Justice Stimmons, and today, right now, I am going to talk about this third episode to the 7th season of Game of Thrones. Ooh, this was awesome. Alright, I'm going to put this out there on Front Street real quick. Okay, for those of you that don't want any spoilers, quick review right now. It's awesome. This episode was a great episode. Very strong. Made up for the last episode because the last episode was a lot of not a whole lot happened in the last episode specifically, as opposed to the first one where we were like, we're back, this is where all your characters are at. And the second one was kind of like, all right, a little bit of setup, everything that's gonna it was telling about everything that's gonna happen in this episode, and quite a bit happened in this episode. It felt long, but it was a good kind of long. You're just like, yes, bam. This was awesome. So that's my review for the episode. It was pretty awesome. You got to see a lot of cool stuff happen. Definitely watch it. Don't skip it because there's only like 7 this season anyway. But let's get on Front Street right now. All right, spoiler section over. Let's get into the parts where we can talk about this thing. All right, so I got my notes here too, so I can talk about it. Because these episodes are long. You don't want to forget anything to talk about because, as far everything seems to have value outside of certain things. Most part, everything has value. Starts off strong. Like, they just get right into the point. Let's get into the deal. Jon Snow pulls up to Daenerys' house, and they're like, okay, let's see. What we're going to talk about. And it starts off, it's weird, because he gets there with the hand to the king. Since I got the notes, I'm going to look up his name right now. But Jon Snow pulls up, and while he's there, he's like, all right. They're like, okay. They're met by Missandei. And she says, okay, and Tyrion. Tyrion and Jon Snow, they're like, they meet each other. It reminds me, like, if you remember back from the first season, it's like Robert Baratheon and, Ned Stark. It's just like, just say something, just be like a joke back to each other. It's like, look, you got to be fat. Is that how you talk to your king? And they both start laughing. It's kind of like that. Let's talk to, the imp and the bastard, and it's like, and they get along well, because they didn't hate each other last time they saw each other. And from there, there's like, okay, so you gotta turn over your weapons. Please turn over your weapons, and all that. And it's like, okay, well, all right, you want our weapons? Sure. And Jon Snow's like, he's like, all right, cool, got our weapons, all right, cool, no big thing, no big deal. And then they take his little boat. And and it's like Jon and Davos are like, okay. And Davos talks to Missandei a little bit about where she's from, and he's like, it was beautiful there last time I went. And he comes and he just turns to Jon Snow and he's like, it's a lot different from when I was there. This is a lot different. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm at lost, and this is all as new to me as it is to you. So they finally see Daenerys after a long walk, and Jon and Tyrion are catching up. Along the way, Jon meets the biggest of the dragons. They didn't give him the warrant to him. Like, Tyrion and Missandei just standing there, and Jon and Davos are just like, they hit the deck, and they're just standing there just like, might as well get used to it. It's like, y'all could have said something. I thought my house would take off by these dragons, And so they talk to Daenerys eventually, and Daenerys is like, her whole deal last week was like, all right, so you're gonna kneel, right? You're gonna kneel. And Missandei's reading all her titles, and Davos doesn't really have many titles for Jon Snow. He's just like, he's got one. Daenerys has got like 9 nicknames. She's like Chris Jericho. So it's like, okay, wow. It's like, it's already started off weird, and Jon Snow basically tells her what he tells her. He's like, all right, so I don't know how to tell you this, but I can't kneel. I ain't trying to insult you or nothing like that, but I can't kneel. And look, I'm here fighting an army of the dead, and this is really important. And she's standing there looking at him like, wow, army of the dead, you ain't gonna kneel? You disrespecting me? Why you disrespecting me? He's looking over at Tyrion like, I thought you said he was nice. And Tyrion's like, I thought he was. And then, so Snow and Daenerys kind of get into it a little bit. They're just like, because it's like, and Davos is in there, he's boosting Jon Snow. He's the hype man. He's like, look, he's done all these things. He took a stab in the heart. What did he say? he would give his life for no. He took a stab in the heart for the people that followed him. He's the first to group with the wildlings because no one's ever done that. As when Miss Sunday was reading all these lists of names of all the things Daenerys has done, but then Davos was like, oh yeah, he was the first to bring the wildlings. He gave a life. He took a stab in the heart for his people. He died, and then he looks and Jon Snow looks at him and he's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, let's not tell her that I died and I'm back. Let's not shh, get that secret. So, and it's one of those things where it's like, and Jon Snow basically says, what we've been saying for a while is like, look, I ain't got time to be worried about this who's gonna kneel thing. It don't even matter. And then Tyrion's like, well, if it doesn't matter, why don't you kneel anyway? And Jon basically, rightfully, says like, look, I don't know you. The last of the Targaryens I knew killed my grandfather, but killed grandfather not Snow, Stark, and and they had a thing where it's like between Jon's last episode and the first one where it was like, look, I won't I won't make a child pay for the sins of their ancestors. And that's what Daenerys brought on him. She said in the beginning, she's like, I'm sorry about that, but you're still gonna kneel, right? Because I'm still the rightful queen. And he's like, look, like I said, I don't know you. I don't know how you're good for these people. All I'm seeing is hearsay. It's like this is what they're telling me, but look, I don't know you. I personally don't know you, and I'm gonna say, yeah, you go for the throne. When the last one that you went to the throne, it was like, burn it all. It was like, look, I can't do that. I can't. And I was sitting there like, yeah, Jon, you ain't got to kneel. Me, I might have kneeled just because. Hey, fine. Come on. We need to hurry. White Walkers are coming. We need to go now. But Jon held his ground. He's like, no, I'm not gonna kneel. And it was kind of like they're like, okay. She was like, all right, well, you must be. And Daenerys has this thing sometimes where she's kind of like slightly like condescending, and when she says something, where she was like, all right, you must have been tired, like, well, we'll drop your beds and bath and all that, and he's like, so we're prisoners here, and she's like, not yet. And I was like, all right, so she's gonna hold him captive for a little bit. Then she took their weapons and took their ships, so he can't leave. So it's like, all right, crap, all right, where are we going from here? And then it goes on to Theon, and Theon is pulled on board a ship. But apparently, I guess some of the Ironborn's naval army, and they asked him like, "What happened?" Basically, like, what happened? He's like, "Yeah, I saw Euron take her. I tried to stop, but I couldn't save her." And then they're basically like, they call his bluff. They're like, "If you had tried, you wouldn't be here, or she'd be here." And it was just like, yeah, Theon, you dipped, You left her hanging high and dry. And then it cuts to Yara, who is being dragged by the throat on a wire, or a whip, I guess, a rope, by Euron. And Euron's being praised by the people of, Golly, what is that? He's being praised by the people in King's Landing. He's riding on the way. He's on there. He's in there with the Randy Orton pose and everything. And then he's like, yeah, this is awesome. And, Yara's just standing there she's still got some of the blood on her face and everything. She hasn't had her face washed or anything. And she's sitting there walking defeatedly, like just like heartbroken and hurt and all that stuff. And it's tough to watch. Yara's one of my favorite characters. And then you see the Viper and her youngest daughter, who's still a warrior. They're being dragged along too as well, and they're throwing stuff at him. They're throwing stuff at Yara. It reminds you of like ring shame. Except they got clothes on still. Then it cuts to the throne room, and Cersei sees, and she's in a mixture of just like just like, yeah, they're finally like the people that killed my daughter. She's right there, and she's excited, and she's like, you will get whatever you want. And she basically tells Euron, and because Euron wants her, and kind of the throne, and she's like, in time, like after the battle is won, you will get whatever your heart desires, her. So, but yeah, so she trusts him now. He's earned her trust. And Euron's talking with Jaime, and he's giving them crap. He's basically like, yeah, how does she like it? I need your advice. How's she like, just egging him on ever, just like, just. And he gets away with it because they're in public, so he can't, Jaime can't necessarily strike him, so he's just like, shh, later. It's one of those things where Euron is just like, ever egging him on, just like man, you just because you don't be talk, because Jamie's like, you ain't gonna talk about my sister like that. You ain't gonna do that, but he can't really say nothing because he's Kingsguard. And then it goes on. Cersei, Cersei has her big moment where she talks to the Red Viper, or the current Red Viper, and her youngest daughter, and they're tied up in like a dungeon. They're gagged so they can't speak, and she's just tired of talking and just giving her just like all the pain that's like, look, you made me go through. I lost my daughter, and it basically ends up with like, and now you shall lose yours, basically. And she does the thing with the kiss, with the poison on her youngest daughter, and youngest daughter's like, Mama, and she's like, and the maester that she's with just gave Cersei a thing so she would, not die herself. And, he basically like, look, she could die, it took it days, weeks, it kind of depends on the toleration of the body. And she's like, look, you're going to sit there, you're going to have to watch your daughter die. And if you refuse the food that we shove down your throat, you will die as well. And you're going to sit in this dungeon and watch. And it's like, and you see that she's trying to, like, she's up, like, she makes that lady feel everything she felt when Oberyn died and when, and that, when Cersei lost her daughter. Because, when Oberyn died, the lady, that's when she went snapped and it's just like, oh, I'm going to kill the Lannisters now. And then now she's like, she's going to have to feel that pain of losing her daughter. And it's really messed up, but you're kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, go Cersei. In that moment, it's like, yeah, Cersei, she deserved, like, well, not the girl necessarily, but you kind of like, I see, yeah, eye for an eye, I guess. And then it cuts to Cersei, and then she, spends a little bit of time with her brother, and you forget for a half second, you forget, oh yeah, they're brother and sister. Ew. Yeah. Anyway, and Cersei at this point, she don't even care that, she don't even care who knows. I don't care. I'm the queen. I do what I want. I'm the goat. I do what I want. So, people, and she's like, yeah. She's just at this point, this is as fulfilled as she's felt in a long, long time, and it's scary. So, anyway, it cuts to Tyrion, and he's talking about like, yeah, kind of messed up that one thing I did, because they're playing, because Yara and Theon's ships, they got raided by Eurons, and he's like, I didn't see that coming, crap, I should have. And he went out to walk about it and brood about it, and then he sees Jon Snow out brooding, and he talks with Jon, and basically he's like, look, I understand, like, you're right, you don't know her, it's kind of somewhat unreasonable. Then again, you are asking her for stuff, and all this stuff, and you're a little bit of your deal's kind of unreasonable too, and she doesn't know you either. That's the main reason. It's kind of like, yeah, you're right, Tyrion. He talks him down a little bit, and then he's like, look, if there's anything I can do, let me know, Jon. Like, I believe you. We just gotta, talk to her a little. She's a little bit, so let me just be the middleman in this. And it was really worse because then he has to do it later with Dany for Jon. And Jon basically requests, he's like, look, all Jon wants is the dragon glass, really. He's like, he likes support, but the dragon glass is the primary purpose. And he talks to, Tyrion talks to Dany, and she's basically like, do you believe him and all that stuff. And he gives a great quote where he's just like, gosh, what was it? He says, he's like, look, oh my God, it was something along the lines of, yeah, I believe something. He basically been saying, like, look, I believe the man with honor, as opposed to believing what a bunch of people tell me. There's something about that, And Dany asked where he quoted it from. He's like, I can't really remember. But basically, he says, like, look, and he's like, look, just, hey, just give him a little bit. You ain't got to give him nothing, but give him something. You really ain't giving him nothing, because all he's asking for is dragon glass. And the funniest quote of the whole episode, he's like, you didn't even know it was here. You didn't even know dragon glass was here. So just give it to him, and he'll leave it alone. Just, hey. You ain't got to be asking me, oh, Neil, you ain't got to go, you ain't a little strong, Dany. You act a little strong sometimes. I understand. You're going to went through a lot. You want a lot back. But, hey, try so tough, I get it. But, yeah, calm down. And it's like, okay, cool. And later, get into that later. What happens from there? And then Daenerys. Well, after that, Sam and Jorah have the little thing, and they meet the Maester, and because Jorah survived the surgery, that brutal surgery, that was like, oh my goodness, and his skin's like, it looks a lot like welted up, it's got a lot of welts on it. It doesn't look horrible. He's not, normal looking. Like clearly part of his being looks a little bit more average than the rest of it, but he looks relatively fine, and they say he is fine, so he survived it. There's no, cave disease or whatever on him, and, basically he's like, look, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was the rest. I don't know. Climate. And he lets him go. But Jorah, before he leaves, him and Sam have a little back and forth where they're just like, yeah. He's like, thank you, and he's like, I'm going to the Queen now. And Sam's like, yeah. And he's like, well, I hope our paths cross again. And it was like, that was a good moment. And then what makes it a better moment was when Sam puts out his hand, and then Jorah goes to shake it, and you're just like, okay. And they shake it, and then Jorah puts it on. It's like, Jorah's healthy now, and you can see the look. Jorah was like legitimately happy and thankful. It was great. It was a great moment between two great actors. And then it cuts to Sam later on, and he has to, talk to the Maester, basically like, yeah, I did it, I did it. And the Maester's kind of like, yeah, this is one of those things. I told you not to do it specifically. A, because no, but B, more specifically, is like, look, many people with a lot of skill, with a great record, have tried this and failed. And he's like, how did you do it? And he gave the excuse that anyone that's ever been good at school for a certain period of time and had a bunch of people ask him, man, how you pass that class? Any person that's had that gives the same answer generally. It's like, hey man, how'd you pass that class? I read the book, I took notes, and I just did it. That's it. That's all you gotta do. And that's basically what Sam said. He's like, look, I read the book. I followed the directions. That's it. That's all I did. I ain't do nothing special. So it was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. That was really cool. And then, Sam was kind of, and he's told him good job, even though he disobeyed an order. And then he was like, look, all right, see those books over there? Them scrolls? They're rotten. I need you to make copies. And Sam looks disappointed. And the dude's like, hey, your reward is I'm not expelling you and kicking you out of here. So, yeah, get to work, boy. And it's just like, Sam is back in the drags. Poor Sam. Poor Sam. I really feel bad for him. Even though, yeah, he did something incredible, but it's one of those facts of life. Yeah, he did something incredible, but hey, life still's got to spin. Some people don't care. Sansa is running over, King's Landing. No, not King's Landing. She's running, maybe it is King's Landing, I don't know. I gotta work on this map stuff. So, she's over there, she's talking to the people of where she left. John left the North, and he left her in charge, so she's running stuff pretty clearly, asking her advisors for information on stuff. And they're telling her, yeah, things are good, and certain things point out, like the armor is not, there's no leather on the armor, so it's like how they're gonna keep warm. And she's like, and they're like, yeah, that's right, hey, you over there, hey, fix the leather on there, on the armor, so it'll be warm. You need to show it's warm, thank you. All that stuff, it's really good. Littlefinger gives her advice. Just like all the people, everyone's your friend, everyone's your enemy, that kind of thing. It's really good advice. But it's one of those things where it's like, coming from you is off. And she doesn't know if she wants to believe it or not, or follow it, or trust in it, because it's Littlefinger. And then Bran shows up. And it's at this point I realize that Bran, whatever this thing that he's been doing, it's at this point I realize, okay, this thing has affected him more than I believed. And it kind of, it has something to do with Mira, but not a whole lot. It's like, and then she goes and they talk about a tree with the bleeding face, and it's like, okay. And Bran kind of explains what he's been doing, or what he's been up to, where he's been and all that. But you catch from the moment he says hi to Sansa when he's back. Because he sits there blank. Like, a Vision expresses more emotion than Bran did in this whole episode. It's just like, hello, Sansa. And then he's talking about a tree, and he's just sitting there. And he's just like, I told you it was complicated. I am the three-eyed raven. All this stuff devoid of emotion. Whatever this thing that he's been involved with has literally sucked all the emotion out of this guy. Not the actor, the character. The character was literally like drawing emotion. And it's going to be one of those things where it's just like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Because how does, at this point, it's like, okay, if this, okay, this is going to be difficult to deal with. Because if he can't express emotion, then how are we going to be able to not buy, but necessarily understand the gravity of what this man is saying? Because if he's, yes, it will come, the answers you want. If he's talking like that, you know, he could be talking about, I don't know, maybe they got more cows, maybe they got more horses, maybe they got more people coming. Or, you know, death could be coming. You know, it's going to be tough. It's like, okay, if something bad happens, how is he going to react? It's going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, all right, fine, whatever, okay. So, all right, great. Again, more editing. But yeah, Bran's whole thing is like, okay, well, okay, fine, whatever, okay, this is going to be interesting. What his whole thread of everything, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, what exactly is happening? Because he skipped a season. They skipped Bran for a whole season. He was gone. Purposefully, I feel it. And then he came back last season. And last season, it was for me personally, the one thing that stuck out throughout the entire series is like, okay, this is the slow build. This is the one where it's kind of like, all right, we're kind of swinging somewhere until the last episode where things were revealed. And now it's like, okay, so still, what's the thing? What is the thing? You know, he has to talk to Jon Snow. I get that. But what is like the thing? He's seen everything. That's the big thing now. Is he's seen everything apparently. Because he's a three-eyed raven. So he knows what Sansa's been doing. He doesn't even have to ask her. It's one of those things where it's like it's a wealth of knowledge. At this point, he's basically become Professor X. Minus the emotion, like I said. So, it comes from that. And, you know, Grey Worm... And they talk. Okay, so Dany basically says, you know, Dany and Jon have a talk outside, and they're like, look, they ain't budging on their things. Like, you know, she's like, I'm still gonna be the queen of everything, and he's still like, I'm still not kneeling. But she does. She's like, okay, so yeah, you can have like the dragon glass that you wanted, and he's like, so you believe me? She's like, yeah, you better get to work on like mining all the dragon glass because you're in a hurry, right? And he walks off, and it's cool. It's like, all right, Dany, come on, thank you, Dany, thank you, Targaryen lady, thank you. And earlier in the episode, there was a scene between Varys and Melisandre because Melisandre was there, but she said, oh yeah, King of the North, you know, you should call him. He should be here. I served with him. And then when he comes, she's hidden all up in the rocks and stuff. Because remember, she got excommunicated. And Varys is like, why are you hiding and all that stuff? And she basically said, we didn't part on good terms. And she's like, yeah, I don't have to leave now. But, you know, I will return. And he was like, it'd probably be, you know, safer if you didn't. And she's like, oh no, I have to return here to die. You know, that's the way the Lord of Light says so. He's like, and you will die here too. Yeah, Lord Varys. And it was one of those things where it's like, Varys with the red woman from last season, Varys was, you know, shaken up about that. And Varys is shaken up about rarely anything. And this kind of, you know, you could tell he was a little bit shaken again. He was just like, yeah, this is something that is, see, as opposed to what Bran's whole thing is, that's interesting in the sense of like, okay, they know something that's impending that we don't know, apparently. They know something. Well, Bran is supposed to be like, okay, he knows everything, but so what exactly is it that we need to know at this point? You know, with them, we don't know what we need to know. It's a counterbalance kind of sort of thing. So, and then they talk in the throne. Dany, Missandei, Tyrion, and Varys talk on the throne. And they talk about, look, okay, so they took the ships. You know, they took Dara's ships and whatnot. Okay, so what's next? And they talk about Casterly Rock, where they send Grey Worm and his soldiers. And they talk about, yeah, basically, they're going up against a very difficult task. Varys says this, and then Tyrion goes on to talk about how they're gonna try and get on the wall, but they can get the wall is impenetrable, the law is impregnable, and this is where Tyrion. This might be like I was giddy because this was a great quote. He quoted Bronn. He quoted Bronn. It's one of those quotes about Bronn I know like the back of my hand, but it's one of those things you never really think of. But it was a great quote to pull from. He talks about. I'm not going to repeat it because it's not family friendly, but it was a great quote, and it was just like yeah. And you saw the plan because Tyrion was tasked when Casterly Rock was built. His father took care of most of the things except for the sewers. So most of the soldiers, or not most, but a lot of soldiers was a front. Oh, we're going to go in for the wall. But Tyrion said, like Grey Worm and a few of the other best soldiers went through the sewer system through the side, got in to and from there they took Casterly Rock. Good plan. Only problem is most of the good soldiers of the Lannister army are not at Casterly Rock, and Euron's ships are taking out all of the ships that Dany had sent over with Grey Worm. So it's like, okay, they're stuck there, but where is the Lannister army? Where they at though? Where they at though? What happens apparently? So the Lannister army, some of which were pulled from there, and they're sent to deal with Grandmother Tyrell. Tyrell, right? Yes, Grandmother Tyrell and her piece of land, and that's where we see Bronn. Jaime Lannister was riding around, and you see those people behind him, and there's his guard, and then you see Bronn there, and he's just sitting there looking all cool and everything, calm and collected. If you can't tell by that, Bronn's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, it's really cool, and Jaime Lannister, gosh, that actor's name is Nikolai, I think. His name is hard to pronounce, but he's a great character. One of those he's had a whole arc and all these different things. He's really fun to watch. You hate him at first. You really do hate him. But he's one of those things. Yeah, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. I need to have his name pronounced. By the next episode, I will have learned to pronounce his name. Anyway, so him and his people, they go the Tyrells. They have no real defense. So, the Lancers get in there pretty swiftly, and as Jaime's walking around, that's when I realized this actor, Nikolaj, he's even at 47, this dude could be in any big movie now and look cool. He could be in a comic book film and walk around looking cool. It'd be dope. I would put him in a comic book film. So if he'd want to be in one, I don't know. He might be above that. But anyway, walking around, he has a conversation with Grandmother Tyrell, and it's basically like, look. So yeah, he's like, yeah, your sister's a monster, right? He's like, perhaps to most people, but a lot of these people aren't going to care if she's the one ruling, then they're going to be cheering. It doesn't matter if they're all well. And he says this to Euron earlier, where he's like, because Euron's like, yeah, it's great to be loved. Too bad you don't know what that feels like, right, Jaime? And Jaime's basically, look, these are the same people that were throwing crap at my sister, not too long ago, when she had to walk nude in the streets, and now they're cheering for her. These people are fickle. Yeah, I ain't worried about them. Their opinions, change like day and night. So, and basically, like, yeah, they have a great conversation with Grandmother Tyrell. It's really sincere, and she's basically like, look, how am I gonna die? How am I gonna die? And he's like, basically like, because he has the sword, he's like, I'm not gonna stab you or anything like that. I'm not gonna drown you. I'm not gonna, burn you or anything like that. Cersei wanted all that to happen, but he was like, nah. And, he says, I got this. It's basically like, I'm gonna poison her drink. He's like, I'm gonna poison your drink, because he had poured glasses, and he's like, you're not gonna feel any pain, but yeah, that's how you're gonna die. She's like, all right, fine. And she chugs this thing, and it's like, okay. She was ready to die and all that sort of stuff, and she was like, my one weakness was basically like weakness of imagination. She's like, I couldn't imagine the things that your sister has done or will do. She said, I couldn't imagine that, and she's like, I understand that's the one reason, I'm gonna die today. And it's like, she's like, look, you ain't gotta worry about saying nothing Yeah, don't worry about anything because I ain't making it out of this room, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about Jamie. Say whatever, you know. And she's basically like, you love her, don't you? And Jamie's, not really reacting as he has throughout the whole series. And she's like, you poor fool, basically, because she's gonna bring about death, and that'll be the end of you. And this is telling because this is right where I realize, okay, Jamie's probably not gonna die, not in the way that I've been thinking he would, because he acknowledges the fact, he's like, yeah, this will probably be the way I die, dealing with Cersei. And when someone admits these kind of things on the show, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that he's gonna die like that. Cersei might die. Well, she's right now, like I said, she feels like the transitional champion, so she's gonna die eventually. She's gonna be kicked off this throne. But I think Jamie's not gonna die with her. I think Jamie's gonna survive at least a little bit longer. So, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so I don't think he's gonna die like that. So that was a cool telling scene. But what's messed up is once she finishes drinking, she talked because he mentioned earlier. She's like, "Oh yeah, Joffrey, because Jamie has his sword. I think it was Widow's Peak or something like that." And she's like, I can't repeat what she said either because that was kind of not family friendly. But basically, she reveals she's like, "Yeah, that was a horrible. You with the Kingsguard. You lost your son. Lost the king. You're the Kingsguard. Wow, that sucks. She's like, I didn't know, because Joffrey's death was kind of brutal. Yeah, brutal death. Not as brutal as it should have been, but it was very brutal. He couldn't breathe. He was puking up, bleeding out the eyes and nose and all that. It was nasty. And she's basically like, yeah, it was horrible. I didn't know it would work like that, I didn't know, I didn't plan for it to happen like that, but, yeah, it was one of those things where you're just like, and you cuts to Jamie, and he's just like, because he's like, oh, you're the one that killed Joffrey. You killed Joffrey? And it was one of those things where it's just like Grandma Tyrell's defiant even to her last breath. She's just like, yeah. She basically like, yeah, I killed your son. Ain't no big deal. We all hated him anyway. And it was one of those things like Jamie's hurt, but the rest of us are like, oh my God, Grandma dropping mics. She's dropping mics. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And the episode ends from there. Jamie just walks out. I love this episode. Wow, this was a great episode. I'm glad I watched it. Great episode. So, that's my thoughts on the Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 3, A Queen's Justice. Great episode. Awesome. I loved it. All the character stuff, seeing the dragons. Can't wait for Episode 4, where it looks like Dany's going to need Jon a lot more than she thought. And Jamie, we might see Jamie in action. We're going to see more Bronn. Let's see Bronn. Not, Braun Strowman, but like Bronn. So, I can't wait for the next episode. What did you guys think? You can totally leave your comments down below. Just be respectful. But yeah, totally leave your comments down below. I believe that should work. And, if you like the video, please like it, share it, subscribe it, I say that a lot. Wow, this is great. I will catch you guys all soon. I gotta check out for now. Gotta do some business. But I'll see you guys soon. Winter is here. Let's go. We're halfway through the season. Finish strong. Game of Thrones.